online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing after shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
All right. Look at that. Welcome, everybody, to AFTERBUZZ TV's recap show for Superstore, the new sitcom that debuted tonight on NBC. You can follow us here on hashtag ABTV Superstore. Follow us there on Twitter. Like us on Facebook. Check us out on YouTube and iTunes as well. I'm Frank Moran. I'll be your host tonight. Now, certainly, much like a store, the shelves are kind of bare here. Just doing a solo hosting tonight. But rest assured, next week we are going to restock these shelves, have the rest of the panel back here so we can break down all the episodes. But for tonight, I'll be here breaking down episodes 101 through 104. Now, Superstore got its start. They did a little sneak peek back in the first week of December. They did a little sneak peek right after The Voice on a Monday night at 10 o'clock. They did the first 2 episodes there, and then they streamed the 3rd episode. So the first 3 episodes have been available to catch up to on demand, and tonight was the debut of the series in its regular time slot at 8 o'clock on Monday nights. And we had episode 104, which we'll be breaking down in just a little bit. Now, a little breakdown on the series. It was actually created by Justin Spitzer, who has worked on The Office as well. Executive produced by Ruben Fleischer, who you may know directed films like Gangster Squad and Zombieland, 30 Minutes or Less. So they've collaborated on this sitcom here. The premise of the sitcom is basically it's a superstore, one of those giant superstores like a Walmart, Costco, Target, and all the shenanigans that go on with all the staff members of that store. As the slogan on the poster says, they're getting their shift together. It stars American Ferrera, who you may know from Ugly Betty, as well as Ben Feldman, who plays Jonah on the show there. He's been in many other productions. He was on From A to Z on NBC last year. Also starring Colton Dunn, if anybody's a fan of the UCB here in Los Angeles. Colton Dunn is a great performer over there. So it's a fantastic show. So let's kick right into it here. I mean, we start off as with all series, the pilot. Episode 101. Basically, we start off with Ben Feldman. He's our entry character into the show. He starts off by getting his first day there at Superstore, doing an interview with Dina, who's one of the, I guess you would describe her as sort of the, just a over militant kind of middle management right there. She just wants to make sure that everything is shipshape and everything's done according to code. But, of course, she takes a fancy to Jonah as well. So kind of does a little easy interview since she's got a bit of a crush on him and gets him through. He also starts the same day as Mateo, another employee there, and as they introduce themselves to the rest of the staff, basically Jonah says he's just there to it's his first day on the job. Mateo, though, takes the moment to let everybody know that he's here to spread his wings and fly as far as he could. So now probably the main character of the show, the lead of the show, is American Ferrera. She plays Amy, but goes by the name of Amy. She actually wears name tags with different names on there because she doesn't want anybody that doesn't work at the store to really be able to know that much about her. She kind of keeps to herself. And it starts off with she's just trying to, as Colton Dunn's character Garrett voices over there, that Superstore is where you come to find everything, whether you want to be thin, you want to get fat, you want to find friendship, you want solitude, or you want to find love. And it starts off with Amy selling a ring to a gentleman that's looking to propose to his girlfriend because he got her pregnant. So basically his dad's making him propose to his girlfriend. So not really buying the best there at a Superstore. They don't really have those top of the shelf rings. So sells him a ring though so he can go and propose, and then ends up meeting Jonah, who's trying to just get his act together there. So basically you feel like there's like a little meet cute, possibly kind of romantic tension happening between the two of those people. But Jonah, who's trying to show that he can fit in and he's capable of doing this job, the first thing that he does to really kind of set things off on the wrong foot is that he's supposed to be repricing some items there in the store and acts like he knows how to use the price gun and change everything accordingly. instead of just knocking everything off 25%, he makes everything that he's repricing 25 cents. So basically that causes a huge calamity in the store. Everybody's running around, and basically buying as much as they can and trying to get out of the store as quickly as possible, which, yeah, there's... Which, I mean, I'm thinking about if somebody took the time to reprice everything 25 cents. I was in the store and I found out, like, my gosh, everything's 25 cents. I don't know if I think I'd be smart enough to think that everybody's going to figure this out sooner or later, and probably pretty quickly. So why not just get a few items that I want and just get the heck out of there? Instead, these people are loading up their carts with as much as possible, trying to get out. Don't slow down the process. If you see something that's free, or you're getting something at a tremendous discount. If you go buy a TV for 25 cents, you're not going to try to buy 50 of them because you might get busted before because they're going to figure out what's going on. So just buy one. Buy one. Don't be greedy. Don't be greedy. Just take your one, run to the register, get that, and just make off like a bandit. Just be happy that you got one TV for 25 cents. Don't try to press your luck on that. But they end up, Dina comes in with her shotgun, lets off a blast. That's what you wanted in a Superstore. It's just let off a little shotgun blast into the ceiling to put everybody at ease and stop them in their tracks to make sure that they don't go off with any other merchandise. Amy is basically wrestling with a lady in the parking lot who's trying to get her items from the shopping cart into her minivan, saying that she's already bought those while Amy's desperately trying to yank them back into the store so that she can pay the correct value for that. So Jonah has to go off and just apologize to everybody like that. Mateo, who's there, basically wants to let everybody know that he wouldn't have made a mistake like that. That if he was put in charge of the store, or at least in charge of Jonah, that he would make sure that nothing like that ever happened again. Now, all this is done under the supervision of the store manager, Glenn, played by Mark McKinney, formerly of Kids in the Hall. Everybody knows him there. He's kind of basically like a milquetoast. I guess one of those managers, if you ever had a manager that just is, just kind of blends into the background. Is supposed to be in a position of authority, but doesn't really hold any authority at all. He basically just is in authority just by title only. Doesn't really have the respect of the people that work underneath him. They just more. It almost seems like they just tolerate him. Maybe have a little bit of pity towards him. I'm sure we've all had bosses like that, where we think we're like, why is this guy the boss? Please, if I were the boss, I would be so much cooler than that. And then I guess you find out if you get in that position of power that, oh man, maybe it's not as easy as I thought. But certainly Glenn brings plenty to the table in terms of issues. So I could see, like, I can't imagine him ever being in just like a regular employee thinking like, oh yeah, that's when I'm the cool boss, I'm going to be this, not the cool boss at all. Now the big twist that we find out at the end of the episode is that as Amy leaves the store, she finally tells Jacob tells Jonah her real name. And Jonah and them have like a nice little tender, like kind of moment, like friendly moment. And you kind of see like a little spark, a little chemistry between those two characters. And then when Jonah leaves for the night, and then you see Amy, she reaches into her purse and she pulls out her wedding ring, puts on her wedding ring. So you find out at the end of the episode that she is indeed married. At that point in the series, since it's only the pilot, you have no idea if she's keeping this a secret from everybody or just from Jonah, since he's the new guy. But regardless, she keeps that part of herself, kind of off the table as well. And that's the end of the pilot episode. Now, I know Zach, who's running the show here, he watched that episode. Zach, big fan of that show?
I thought there was some great comedy bits in this. There's some good... the jokes are there. That's the thing. For me, I didn't get to see episodes 2 through 4 yet, but I think that where they've got to do some heavy lifting is getting the drama between these characters and really feeding my connection to them a little more. But I think there were some amazing just bits of comedy.
Now, there is certainly the setting for Superstore is rife for a lot of comedy, but I agree with you there. It's just, and even watching subsequent episodes that I'm going to talk about in a little bit, I mean, you see that the humor is there, and they're really slowly bringing along in the character development. I don't know if they have any long-term plans to do more with that, but so far that's certainly been the part of the show that is not as strong as in terms of these relationships.
Yeah, I mean, like Colton Dunn as Garrett, I thought was hysterical.
Yes,
he's probably my favorite character on the show. I need someone to connect to. at this point. So I'm. Did you feel that you really connected to any of the characters?
You know, as somebody, having my first job be at a Kmart, I mean, I guess I could see myself being more like Jonah, where you're just trying to fit in with everybody and then realizing you're in a little bit over your head with everything. And I mean, that was me. I ended up getting fired from that within 90 days. So yeah, so I guess I was definitely in over my head when it comes to working at a superstore. So I'd probably relate more to Jonah than anybody else.
Okay, I mean that's fair, especially if you have that personal connection to the role. I have never worked in a big box store.
Oh, you're missing out, Zach. You're missing, man. Oh, I can't believe you missed out on that prime life-shaping moment to work in a big box store.
The show did activate my conspiracy theory thought, like wheels in the back of my head. Thing, I'm like, did Walmart pay for this show to make us think that they're like treating all their workers like great and everyone there has a good life? And the pilot did not dissuade my conspiracy theories.
Yeah, I would certainly look in that break room that everybody's working in. They certainly seem much more happy. It's like they're TV kind of like grumpy, as opposed to like real life grumpy if you're working at one of those big box stores. At least from the time that I've worked in a few of them, like over Christmas breaks, working at a Toys R Us or doing Kmart and things like that. That people in the break room, yeah, they're really cranky about their work situation.
These characters have retained their souls.
Yes, and you find that out quickly at a big box store. That oh dear Lord, this is your souls are being diminished on a daily basis.
But yeah, I mean, I did also think that the twist at the end of the pilot with the ring was well done, well presented, and like it was a surprise.
It was a surprise, but I think it's the kind of twist that makes you think that they're going to really build on that throughout the series, and so far they really haven't built on that.
Okay, so yeah, so now I would love to hear what you think of episodes 2 through 4, and if they went. If they took that places, or they're just sitting on it as a plot device for later.
Yeah, and for those of you that do happen to live in Los Angeles, just a little fun fact in terms of the location of the Cloud9 store. It's not really a store at all. It's basically just a facade. So just the front and side of that building. And anybody that's driving by the Warner Brothers studio, making their way over Barham, over the hill to go back into Hollywood, and you can see right in the back of the Universal lot, if you're heading over the hill into Hollywood, you can see the front of the Cloud9 store just built right there, just a little exterior that you just drive right by it every single day. So that's if you're in Los Angeles, you want to get a little peek of the location of NBC Superstore's Cloud9, you can see it right over there. So now, yes, Zach, thank you for that fantastic segue. So as we're talking about the rest of the series, we'll move on to episode 2. Which is called Magazine Profile. So for this, it's basically it starts off with a morning meeting there, run by Glenn, who basically has no control over the break room right there. Everybody else is just talking, doing their own conversations. Finally, it takes Dina to be able to just kind of give a little rap on the desk to get everybody's attention. But basically, the idea is that the corporate magazine for Cloud9 is coming to do a profile piece on the store, and Glenn is paranoid because he just wants to make sure that he gets that he looks good, that he gets a little feature, that the store looks great in the magazine. So he's wanting to make sure that everybody's on their best behavior. So he kind of goes around the break room, calls everybody out on a few things like, Sal, stop being so creepy. Please just dial it down to a 2. He tells Garrett to basically get all the playful nicknames that he likes to call Glenn when they're out on the store floor to just get him out of his system right now, so that way he doesn't have to say those when the reporter gets there. So, which is nice. A nice little moment for Colton Dunn to be able to run down the list of nicknames that he has for Glenn, which include Glenda, Glenema, Trans Glender, Glengarry, Glenn Loss, Glentil Soup, and G Nothing. So I'd love to know if those were actually Colton's ideas or if those are in the script. I don't know. Since Colton is a fantastic improviser, I'd like to think that maybe he got a chance to throw in a few of those off the top of his head as well. But now Dina basically wants nothing to do with any of this. She already hates reporters, magazines, newspapers, all the way from back in high school when they said that she had scoliosis. And so she was terribly offended by that accusation in high school, and so has never trusted any sort of reporter since then on. But Glenn also takes a moment there to feel like he's cool and that he gets it with the nicknames, and decides to give himself his own nickname as well. And he calls himself G-Spot. So terrible Terrible nickname for yourself there, Glenn. Sorry about that, buddy. So basically, the reporter comes in there, and they want to make sure everybody looks good for that. So Glenn basically sees what's on the mannequin, just says like, I'm going to dress like this really cool hip style mannequin, and he can't pull it off. He's just not that cool to be able to pull off one of the fashions that you see on a mannequin. So Amy, Mateo, and Jonah said like, all right, we'll help make you over. So they get him a nice little suit and tie, make sure that it looks respectable. It looks like he could be the manager of Cloud9, and they think that he's ready to go for the interview. But Jonah stops him and says like, it doesn't matter how good you dress. All the reporters care about are your big ideas. That's what you need for the article. That's what they want to hear about. Tell them that's some big idea that you have, and that's going to get a lot of focus and attention on the article, make you look really good. Amy and Mateo say, don't get into any of that. Just look good, answer any questions, talk about the store briefly, and then just move on. So when the reporter shows up, Glenn's got that going through his head, and of course the first interaction between Glenn and the reporter, terrible. Glenn's fumbling. Yeah, they can't actually get one word in over the other. They keep talking at the same time. So Amy does all the talking for them, and Glenn, which I love his smooth move to introduce himself to the reporter, says that here we go. It's a pleasure to meet me, and that you're just a cute little kitty cat, aren't you? Which great way to ingratiate yourself to anybody, especially a reporter. That's something you really want to have talked about in the article, is that you just refer to everybody as just a cute little kitty cat. So Glenn takes her around the store for just a little supervision, kind of give her the tour, and realizes that the reporter doesn't care about like, hey, all these stores look the same. What makes this store stand out? What's different about this? What are you trying to do? That's what she wants to put in the magazine. And Jonah happens to be right there along with Amy and says, well, hey, Glenn has a lot of big ideas. In fact, his big idea to change the way that the store is run and put together is that instead of organizing everything by product type, that he thinks that Glenn likes the idea of organizing everything by lifestyle. So whether you're like a single mom, you're a veteran, that's how everything would be organized in the store for your particular needs. The reporter thinks that's a fantastic idea and says, all right, I think that's something we could definitely write about in the article. And then Jonah, of course, goes a step too far and pimps out Glenn to say a few more ideas. And so Glenn's two ideas were we're gonna be calling it ramples. We're gonna call it framples instead of free samples. Just shorten that word. That's gonna be the other big idea. Everything's called framples. The reporter already feels like no, forget it. I don't need to hear any of this. And his second idea is we're gonna call them sharts from now on. Basically short for shopping carts. Oof. It's a great nickname. Of course, certainly if anybody's knows what a shart is a true description of, knows how far off the base that this is. But I love the idea of somebody going around calling everything sharts. I think I'd love to start using that as I go around to any of the big box stores. Hey, Art, don't forget, we got to get our shart. Make sure we go around. See how many times I can say that before people start looking at me like, what are you talking about? What is happening here? So now Garrett is one thing he's not excited about this reporter coming to cover the story, because they know along with the reporter you bring a photographer, and the photographer, his main goal is to find somebody that has a disability, because that's what they use for the covers of their magazine. They love to show how diverse they are with the people that they employ, and so Garrett knows that he's a prime target for this photographer, and he doesn't want to be on the cover of this magazine. So basically Garrett spends the majority of the episode just avoiding the photographer as much as possible. You see him kind of cruising around the aisle. There's even one customer that comes up to Garrett and asks him about headphones, and the whole time that Garrett's answering his question, he's giving everybody, he's just flipping the bird, just in general, as he's talking to this guest. And the guest's kind of offended, like, why are you flipping me the bird? I was just asking you about headphones. And his response was, no, this has nothing to do with you, but as long as I keep my fingers like this, I can't get photographed, because they could never use this in the magazine at all. So I felt like that was his moment to kind of stymie the photographer. But at the end of the episode, he has a change of heart, because he sees that Glenn is just being kind of dismissed by the reporter. He's not really going to get his moment to shine. The photographer hasn't even taken one single photo of Glenn at all to use in the feature or the cover or anything like that. And so Glenn's feeling very dejected. He's missed his chance to really shine, his moment in the sun. And Garrett sees that and decides, all right, I'll take one for the team. You know what? You can take a picture of me as long as you do it with my boy Glenn along with me in the photo. So that gives Glenn his moment to shine. Garrett gets his photo taken. But of course, when the magazine does come out, they see it on the cover that you can see Garrett just fine, but where Glenn is sitting next to Garrett, there's a big starburst over his face describing how great Cloud9 is for hiring some of their people with disabilities for their staff, for their members of their team. And Glenn, even though it just takes a pause for a second, but still excited that he even just made the cover, even just like his body made the cover, not even his face, but still happy about that little victory that he has. So that now for a second episode, I mean, basically anytime a second episode happens, you want to kind of repeat the pattern. So the first episode, just to kind of reinforce the idea for the viewers. And as a second episode, I mean, this was fine. I mean, basically, if you're talking about just general day-to-day life and shenanigans that could happen at a superstore, it does a fine job of that. But in terms of developing any of the characters at all, I mean, other than just reinforcing just their kind of behavioral types, it doesn't really progress them character-wise or developmentally, I think. Especially when you do such a big reveal in the pilot that Zach and I were just talking about, where Amy shows that she's married. That big reveal at the end of it, not even addressed in this episode at all. So I don't know what their intention was here in the second episode. The way they approach it like this makes me think like they're not really caring so much about long-term character arcs or any sort of kind of tension, whether it be like a Sam and Diane relationship that you'd see on Cheers, something like that, whether they're trying to develop it like that, more so than just like, hey, this is just another, we're going to treat everything as just kind of like one-off episodes. There's not really any kind of big overall character arcs, no continuity. So I have to admit, I was kind of disappointed in that episode, even though the humor was there. Just the fact that if you tease the fact that there's some kind of secrets at play, at least to one, if not more, of the characters that work with Amy's character in the show, then I'd like to see that kind of developed in some sense. And the fact that it wasn't just was like, I mean, it's just kind of a nagging thing, because that seemed to be such a big thing to end an episode on, that you're like, all right, I'm looking to find out what the hook is for this. And other than just like, you kind of get the feeling that Jonah and Amy just have a kind of a flirtatious relationship, that there's certainly some sort of chemistry and fondness there. There is no progression from what you see at the end of the pilot episode. So that's now one other thing that the show does as well is that through each of these episodes, there's always like these little running gags, little quick gags, like blackouts almost, of either people, how they're behaving while they're in the store, or just employees while they're at the store. So, for example, in this episode, there's a man cleaning up a bunch of pickles that have been, like a jar of pickles is smashed on the floor, scattered pickles all over the place. He's cleaning it up since he works at the store, but he stops midway through and just picks up a pickle and decides to take a bite and just eat it along the way. So you have those little moments that are scattered throughout the episode, which are just nice little, like, quick little hits of just what the kind of odd behaviors that I'm sure many of the writers have probably seen or noticed when they've been at superstores, either from working at them at big box stores or just noticing when they're shopping as well, either employees or other people in a big box store, what kind of behaviors that they're exhibiting. So kind of nice little fun cutaway moments for that. Now, take a little. Now for that, we move on to episode 3. Look at that. We've got episode 3 right there. This is Shots and Salsa. So basically, the episode opens with Glenn, what he likes to do in the morning with everybody else, do like a big morning Cloud9 chant with all the employees. Basically get them riled up, get them excited about the day ahead of them. And the chant basically takes forever. So much so that the store is probably open within like 5 or 10 minutes. They're still going by without opening the doors. And people that want to come in and shop are just basically outside looking in as these people are doing this really long, elaborate chant. And so before they do the chant, they wrap it all up, and before Glenn turns everybody loose, he basically asks for a volunteer that they have samples of Cloud9's new salsa, and he's looking for somebody to volunteer to serve out samples. So Mateo, always being the one to want to move up in the ladder, get attention, show how good he is, quickly volunteers. That's it. That's for me. Yep, I'm going to do it. And Glenn originally says like, all right, boom, yeah, absolutely, because he thinks that Mateo is Latino. When Mateo says, no, I'm Filipino. He's like, nope, that'd be a little awkward. Amy, how about you do it? And Amy takes offense to that, saying, hey, just because I'm a Latina doesn't mean that I should be selling salsa at all. So Glenn decides to just just let his little he's going to count, just a little nursery rhyme type of deal. He's going to count around, and wherever the finger stops, that's who's gonna be giving out the salsa. And happens to do his little counting thing that he does, and it ends up on the only other Latina out there in the store, Carmen. So she's going to be giving out the samples. She's all down for doing that, and in fact, she really embraces it. She wears a sombrero. She sets it up. She starts speaking in a really heavy Hispanic accent as well, which Amy takes great offense to. Like, at first it thinks that Glenn is the one that put her up to that, to doing the accent. So comes over to Carmen and says, you don't have to do this sort of accent at all. This is something that if Glenn's asking you to do this, don't worry about it. So Carmen says, no. I do this because sadly, this is what customers they want. They feel like it's more authentic and more true if they're hearing it from somebody that with an accent talking about them. So really playing up basically the idea of just stereotyping. We just see Latinos. We think that they're like, if they're speaking to us with a Latin accent, then they must know salsa, and they must know that the salsa is really good. If you're talking about it just in your regular voice without any sort of accent to it, why am I going to get salsa from you? How do I know that this is really good? So they basically get in a big fight, Carmen and Amy, about this. Start battling over the salsa, and then the salsa spills on the floor. Carmen slips, sprains her leg, and so she can't do it anymore. So she's kind of out of the running. But that leads to a big corporate video there where they have to do about cultural diversity and sensitivity there in the workplace. And basically that just leaves Glenn wrapping up that session with colorblind is color kind, is how he wraps that up for all the employees to send them out there with that little beat, which as somebody that's had to I've both made corporate videos as well and watched them as well. Man, those are just they're punishing to watch. They just are just so heavy-handed in terms of the message that they're trying to put across. So it was fun to just see a nice little take. Somebody just kind of do a nice little parody of those kind of videos, and then just ending it with "colorblind is color kind" was just a nice nod to some of the ridiculousness and the heavy-handedness that some of those corporate sensitivity videos have. Now, Jonah, at the beginning of the episode, his big arc through the whole story is that he realizes that people should be helping out others if they see a problem. Now, Garrett believes that you don't help anybody else. That within these walls, if you see somebody struggling, let them be. Don't get involved because it's only going to bite you in the end. But Jonah doesn't agree with that. He's like, no, I'm going to help out because that's what people do. You help out other people. So he decides to help this pharmacist who's bringing in some boxes. Now, the pharmacist takes that as a sign like, oh my gosh, this is a overachiever like myself. I'm going to get him sucked into my world. Casually dropping in that they pay him so much money because he makes the tough calls, because he decides whether people live or die. And just subtly drops, well, not even so subtly, just kind of, casually mentions that he makes $116,000 a year to make these big decisions. And basically, while Jonah thinks he's just doing a quick favor to help out somebody bring some boxes over to the pharmacy, basically gets him sucked in for the rest of the episode, just stuck with his pharmacist trying to help him kind of run his little pharmacy counter for the entire episode. Now, the other runner that's going through the episode is a customer over at the Cloud9 store who's basically just trying to find out if he wants to find a toothbrush that takes care of tartar. Not plaque, it's got to take care of tartar. So he's basically asking a variety of different people that work at the store, whether it be Glenn, Mateo, if these toothbrushes take care of tartar and not plaque. And nobody can really kind of give a definitive answer throughout the entire episode. So that kind of is a runner that leads through the whole thing. Now with Amy, because Carmen got hurt, basically Amy's now in charge of the salsa area right there. And Dina comes over to say, like, hey, you can't just be talking to people in your normal voice. Nobody's going to want to come over that. They, as she says, Sofia Vergara it up, really get people excited about that. Amy finds that that's offensive. I mean, that's, I'm playing into stereotypes if I do something like that. But then Dina mentions that part of the proceeds of these salsa sales go towards helping orphan kids. And so Amy sees that nobody's coming by to buy anything the way that she's approaching it right now, and realizes, all right, this is for a good cause. All right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to just lay on a heavy Latino accent and really kind of play this up. And the moment that she does, she starts getting customers coming in and wanting to sample out the salsa and start buying it. And for that episode, she realizes that she's got to kind of put her own ego aside just for the good of the orphans, and just sadly play into these stereotypes. And the more she plays into the stereotypes, the bigger crowd that she gets, and the more people are buying these salsa. So it's like a double-edged sword. She realizes that, oh man, it's just it's terrible, because nobody else. As the end of the episode, she wants to take a moment and just describe to everybody, like, hey, just we do more than just sell salsa. We're also architects. We're also lawyers. We're also policemen. And nobody buys that at all. It's like, nah, I'm just kidding. So she realizes that, sadly, at the end, people just come to these big box stores, Cloud9, and they just are living in their stereotypical world. They just see people with one lens, unfortunately. Now, at the end of the episode, Jonah realizes that trying to help out people is only biting him in the end, because basically the pharmacist kind of sticks Jonah with the responsibility of telling this whole long line of people who have come to get flu shots. There's only one vaccination left. So everybody argues about that, and they're all fighting about who should get this one last vaccination. Jonah's shift goes. Garrett announces over the loudspeaker that everybody that's clocked in at their morning shift, they can now clock out at the end of the day. And Jonah realizes that he's made a mistake. He's, as much as he wants to try to be that helpful person, he's kind of got in over his head and slowly backs away and clocks out for the day. And just as Garrett sums up at the end of the episode, that the great thing about working at the Superstore is that you clock the store at the door. So you don't help out anybody. You clock your issues at the door that you have with the store, and then you can walk out and enjoy the rest of your day. So it ends there with Jonah and Amy sitting out there in front of the Superstore having some chips and salsa, and then the tag for that episode is the gentleman has been looking for the toothbrush, basically spending the whole day at the Superstore at Cloud9 looking for the toothbrush. Comes out to his car, excited to have the right toothbrush, and his kids have been waiting in the car the entire time, which I thought that was probably one of my favorite runners for the show, because it kind of was a nice little payoff at the end of it, that you just see how ridiculous the extremes that some people will do when they're looking for something at the Superstore. So by far, I think so far out of the first 3 episodes, that by far was my favorite runner throughout the whole episode, because it was just a nice little funny moment that kind of came back a couple times and then had a really nice little fun little sting at the end of it to kind of round out the episode. Now, again, in terms of relationships, though, just a little bit of flirtation between Jonah and Amy at the end of the episode. You kind of see them just hanging out there, just enjoying it. Usually at the end of every episode, they kind of come together for a moment, have a little quick conversation, and then kind of go their separate ways. This time they decide to stay together and have some chips and salsa, but no real big development there of the Jonah and Amy relationship. So far, we're 3 episodes in, and other than the pilot, we've seen no real big push towards any sort of kind of relationship indications there towards the two of them. But now we get to the 4th episode here, the final one that we're going to be talking about today. It's Mannequin, episode 104. So this episode here, basically we're starting off with now Jonah finally, 4 episodes in, he feels like he's finally fitting in. Now Amy tells him that you don't decide when you fit into the Cloud9 store. We'll tell you when you fit in. And so Jonah then finds out a little bit of information that the audience has known, that basically that Amy's pregnant. She was pregnant when she was 19, and that she gave the baby up for adoption, and that she's married. These are the first indications that Jonah's realized that Amy has some sort of life outside the Superstore. And certainly that any kind of flirtatious indications that he's had with Amy have now been kind of, he kind of gets a little halt in his step, because he realizes, oh my gosh, she's married, she's had a kid when she's 19. Oh boy, I didn't really know all this stuff about her. I thought we just had kind of a flirtatious relationship. Now, there's another girl at the store, Cheyenne, who's pregnant as well. Her fiance, Beau, was the one that actually bought the ring back from Amy at the beginning of the pilot episode, which is a nice little research. That character is going to be kind of a recurring character, which is kind of nice, because Beau, not the sharpest tool in the box. But basically, when Jonah says to Cheyenne, like, "Oh man, I'm so sorry that you are having to have a baby at such a young age," her response is like, "Oh well, I couldn't get a ride to Planned Parenthood. That was the only thing that was really stopping her from doing anything about this." And Jonah said, "I'm always there to give you a ride." Now, Glenn, the store manager, was like, "No, please stop offering rides to our employees to take them to abortion clinics." And Jonah is like, "No. not really my. I can understand putting your foot in your mouth in terms of what you think is a altruistic gesture, but being really misinterpreted by other people. It's like, no. This is, what are you trying to do? Trying to push your political agendas and views on other people. Don't do that. So now they, as they walk, is Jonah, Amy, and Garrett are going around the store. They happen to see a mannequin that looks surprisingly a lot like Jonah. And Garrett and Amy really love that idea. Like, oh my gosh, it looks just like you. I knew you looked familiar somehow. So this becomes a runner throughout the episode, is that they take the mannequin first into the break room, dress him up to look exactly like Jonah. And Jonah's trying to act like it's not really getting to him at all. But they play around with his weird fascination with documentaries. They make fun of him as they're talking about the mannequin. Weird fascination with documentaries, jazz music, and then eating bananas the wrong way, just holding him by the stem and opening him up the other way, which Jonah says is a life hack that monkeys use in the forest. That's how they do it, because the stem is a natural stalk for monkeys to use. So throughout the course of the episode, just to really kind of stick it to Jonah, they decorate their dress of the mannequin in various different kind of attire and kind of scatter them around the store for Jonah to discover. So things that they dress him up in, they dress him up like a figure skater. They dress him up like a human dog, have him just like sitting there like in a leather vest, like eating out of a dog bowl. A lifeguard in a kiddie pool, a bride holding a banana next to a gorilla holding a banana, and then on a toilet reading a diarrhea magazine. So that's the things. Those are the things that they're trying to do with the mannequin to kind of get a rise out of Jonah. Now, Jonah tells Amy that he's not really going to get a rise out of this because he's got older brothers. He's been used to being teased, so it's not going to get to him at all. And he doesn't want to be labeled as the sensitive one of the store. He feels like everybody at the store has kind of got their thing that they're known for. So he doesn't want to be the sensitive guy. And Amy wonders what she's known as. And she's known as the mom type, that everybody likes her, but nobody expects her to kind of cut loose and have a good time. So Amy kind of takes offense at that as well, and that kind of leads her to keep doing more and more ridiculous things with this mannequin to try to get a rise out of Jonah, but also to say like, hey, I could be the fun lady as well. So much so that she's kind of like passing on her daily responsibilities to other people at the store who are doing a terrible job of managing it. Mateo gets in charge of the schedule and basically uses that as a moment to take that little taste of power and just put anybody that's ever ever irritated him to have them work in the freezer. So basically, like 15 people are working in the freezer because all those people are irritating him. People that are running the clothing department, they're not there, and so people are just changing their clothes right out in the middle of the store, which is going off the rails. And while that's all happening, basically Glenn and Dinah both approach Cheyenne, who's thinking about seriously adopting, giving her baby up for adoption, that either of them would love to be a candidate to take Cheyenne's baby if she was willing to give it up for adoption. And Cheyenne basically gives them a test at the same time to Glenn and Dinah. And basically the first question is like, are you a pedophile? So that was the first question that they put out right out of the gate, which, I guess, you want to get right to it. If you're going to be giving up somebody for adoption, I guess that should be the first question. Are you a pedophile? That's always question somebody's motives. If they're going to be willing to adopt a child, that's, let's question that. So let's first just ask the tough questions, and then we can move on from there. Now, Jonah basically gets so tired of all the stuff with mannequins that he's like, all right, enough is enough. I don't need to see a version of me sitting on a toilet reading a diarrhea magazine. So instead, I'm going to take this mannequin, walk through the store, it's hard to carry this thing with its pants around its ankles, and dump it in the trash compactor. Sadly, though, the alarm goes off because the trash compactor gets jammed, and everybody realizes, like, all right, maybe Jonah, you were saying that you weren't sensitive about that you weren't going to be sensitive about all this, but it feels like this is getting to you a little bit. Jonah keeps trying to play it off, and gets another mannequin, tries to dress it up like Amy, but of course it doesn't look like Amy at all, so that's kind of a fail. And Garrett notices that, like, hey, you know what? Amy, you and Jonah got like a work flirt thing happening. And this is a nice thing because this is the first time that you really see somebody else really acknowledging that there's something going on with Jonah and Amy. So the first time in 4 episodes, we're finally getting a nod that somebody else is noticing this kind of chemistry between the two of them. And Amy takes offense to this because, one, she's married, and two, like she's not gonna have a work flirt relationship, especially if she's in a real committed married relationship. And Garrett's trying to assure, like, hey, I didn't mean anything serious about it. I've got a lot of work relationships as well, so don't worry about that. And as they're talking about this, they see Jonah in the break room, who's now bought a sex doll that he thinks more closely resembles Amy, is trying to dress it up to try to keep going this little one-upsman joke rivalry in terms of mannequins and stuff. And basically the rest of the staff comes in, sees Garrett holding this sex doll that's dressed up like Amy, and basically he can't get the clothes on, so it keeps falling apart. You keep seeing mosaiced out bits of nudity on top of the sex doll. Amy's getting really embarrassed because everybody's thinking like, oh my gosh, that does look sort of like Amy. And Amy's like, no, please stop doing this. No, I don't want any of this happening. So while they're sorting this all out, Cheyenne comes to the realization that she doesn't want to give this baby up for adoption. She wants to raise it for herself. So she tells Glenn and Dinah that nope, we're going to keep the baby for ourselves, and we'll kind of figure it out as we go along. So Glenn and Dinah are sad to miss out on this prime opportunity. But since Dinah's big pluses, reasons that she should adopt, include things like that she already lactates from fungal medication. She has a comfortable lap and can get anyone to burp. I don't know if those are necessarily the things I'm looking for in terms of parenting, if I'm looking to give somebody a child to raise. Like, oh, all right, there you go. You take fungal medication, so you currently lactate. Not something I'm looking for. But there, at the end of the episode, there now Amy's got that idea in the head, like, oh my gosh, people are kind of noticing that I have an attraction to Jonah. What's happening here? Jonah comes up at the end of the day, as they often do, have their little heart-to-heart talk before they leave work for the day. And Jonah says, all right, I know what you're really doing. Amy kind of gets a little caught up there for a second, and Jonah feels like this is all just about the hazing thing. You finally have accepted me. I'm part of the team now. And Amy's relieved to not have to address any more of that kind of romantic are we or aren't we kind of situation, and just says, yes, that's what the deal is. So finally, after 4 episodes, we're getting a little bit of movement here with this. Finally, a little bit of the addressing some of the relationship between Amy and Jonah. Now, I'm hoping that this will continue. I mean, if you're going to finally bring it up in the fourth episode, there seems to be some sort of plan here for the remainder episodes of the season to kind of address this relationship. Although I feel like they've put themselves in an awkward spot because Amy's a married character, and so without ever seeing her husband, I have no idea like what her personal life is like. Is she happily married? Is she just kind of ambivalent towards her marriage? Is she looking for a way out? Is this truly a work flirt situation, or is there something a little bit more serious? I don't know exactly the stakes for Amy's relationship outside of this. Jonah, I feel like, while he's interested in Amy, knowing that she's married, he's not really that committed. I mean, he's already the reporter that came in on episode 2 and did the whole magazine coverage. Jonah ended up going back to her hotel room and kind of fooling around with her. So Jonah showed that he's not completely invested in this like relationship. I mean, while he dresses that there's certain flirtations there, it hasn't really locked into a like, hey, I think there's something here between us kind of moment. And so I don't know if that's, hopefully that's something that either we're going to address or we're not going to address. I think there needs to be a definitive answer to that. Either Jonah's going to be a rapscallion or not. We'll find out in the rest of these future episodes here of Superstore. So keep coming back here, folks. My gosh, that was 4 episodes that we just burned through right here. Look at that. 4 episodes. We did it. Zach, we did it. I'm all talked out. I'm sure you probably have all listened out for this. So look at that. We're going to wrap it up right now. This for ABTV Superstore here. You can follow our AfterBuzz TV Superstore. Look at that. 4 episodes strong, and I'm already talking like a mush mouth. But you can follow us on Twitter at ABTV Superstore. You can follow me on Twitter at HappyGoJackie. You can see me at IO West this coming Tuesday or tomorrow night with my improv team Max at 10:30 at IO West. And make sure to watch us on YouTube, like us on iTunes, and follow us on Facebook here. We'll be back here next week with the whole panel reassembled. So it won't just be me you have to listen to. You get to listen to all the whole panel talk about the new episode of Superstore. We'll see you then.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.